Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Buddha. Namaste and good day to all. I would like to welcome on behalf of Lumbini Nepalese Buddha Dharma Society to today's our Zoom talk, which we conduct this particular talk every month, and also in between we have various other talks. So Bhante Sumana is, when I say monthly talk, it means Bhante Sumana will be asked every third Sunday. So this is continuation of Bhante's monthly talk. Bhante, if I just introduce for people who is not aware of him, he's the president of Lumbini Nepalese Buddha Society, and also he's the head of London Mindful Meditation Center, head of religious department at Whitmore High School, London. So Bhante has been very kind to all of us to find time in his busy schedule and be with us, address us, and advise us in various ways with Buddha's teaching for our well-being and happiness. So we are very pleased and happy to welcome Bhante once again to this Zoom talk program. So without overdue, I would just like to recap what Bhante has been going on, so that people who haven't joined or been with us in previous talk, they can get a gist. So Bhante has been talking on Sigalovada Sutta. So Sigalovada Sutta, which this is the third day or third talk on Sigalovada Sutta. So in last week, Bhante was just going through the various duties and responsibility. So just 2 points I would like to highlight before I hand over to the Bhante for today's continuation talk. The first thing he highlighted was 4 factors that could obstruct our success, namely killing, stealing, adultery, and lie. These are the 4 obstructions which will hinder our success in our lay life. And second point he highlighted was kind of wrongdoing, namely Chandagati, Dosagati, Mohagati, and Bhayagati. Chandagati is due to lust, desire, that we do things. Dosagati due to dislikeness, hatred. Mohagati is a delusion, and Bhayagati due to fear, that how we act in various wrongdoings, bringing unhappiness and problem in our life. So these are the points, and I would like to hand over Bhante for today's talk. Thank you, Bhante.
So thank you for inviting, and thank you for consistently staying with us, most of you. Are we observing Bhante or just?
Yes, Bhante. Yes.
So,
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Anatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Anatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Tirnādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Kāmesu miccācārā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Kāmesu miccācārā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musāvādā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musāvādā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Ramiraya majjapamādatthāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Surameraya majjapamā datthāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Karanena saddhiṃ pañcasīlaṃ dhammang sādhukang surakkhitāṃ kattvā appamādena sampādetabbang.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so dear friends, thank you for joining with us again today. And as Amritju did the introduction, we have been reflecting on the Sigalovada Sutta. And Sigalovada Sutta is one of the social ethical discourses of the Buddha for people who live a lay life, for people who engage in living, earning and living, for people who would like to lead a good, perhaps problem-free life. So it is a guidance, and therefore we call social ethical or socio-ethical discourse. There are many discourses, Vyagapajja, Parabhava, Vasala, and so on. And Sigalovada Sutta, an advice given to a young person, Sigala, who was following his father's last request, but in a misunderstanding, he was doing just a ritual. So when asked by Sigala, the Buddha started to explain few things, and we've been talking about the types of deeds that could obstruct a person. And the reason for us to choose this was before we went further into the Eightfold Path, because we began this series by referring to Four Noble Truths. So before we engage deeper into Eightfold Path, the first one is about Sila, which is morality, then concentration, and then Panya or wisdom. So I thought this sutta will help us to gradually try to understand what the morality or the moral context would mean from the Buddha's point of view and for a lay person who is living a life, because as you know, Bhantes have 227 rules. Lay people have at least 5 rules only to follow. So we started with this, and as the introduction was about the types of wrong deeds, what obstructs someone from progressing, then the types of reasons or the kinds of wrongdoings, which we spent a lot of time discussing last week and focused on fear a little bit in our discussion last month. So I likened that to the 4 strings that actually make a puppet dance or move. your favoritism, your dislikes, or your likes and dislikes, perhaps your ignorance as one of the strings, and sometimes fear that actually motivates us to do some wrong things. So we analyze that deeply, and today we are going into the 6 reasons for a person's economic downfall. And then next session we'll refer to friends or the types of friends. So if you have Googled, you can look into the Venerable Narada's translation. So now this discourse was particularly given or uttered to a person who was quite affluent, person who was well-to-do, and perhaps it might sound like it was advising him how to maintain or progress in his personal worldly life, as well as to have a parallel journey of spiritual attainment. And therefore, this is how it was put. But if I go through the 6 in details first, I might not go into all sub-details, but there are 6 things, that lead someone to deteriorate or to ruin his, her, or her hereditary or maybe inheritance. So let's say if someone was given down, now this young person, his father died, now he has a large amount of money. So if you take that context, we might understand that this was given to a person who has or who is affluent, and how to sustain and maintain himself and to balance himself. So as he was a young person who had lots of wealth coming from his parents, so we can take from this context. We can also, or we have to basically remember that this is particularly, or the examples brought are particularly to the society that was there 2,600 years ago. So there are more things that might actually or can be added to this. So we can obviously discuss this later on. So the first thing that the Buddha also, now, sorry, can I just maybe remind you, when you take this 6 ways or 6 reasons or 6 outlets, it's like a big reservoir or big tank of water, and you have 6 taps. And if you open all the 6 taps, then all the water will be wasted. So it is like that context when a person is affluent, and how to actually to make sure the person is mindful and actually is protective. So therefore, when we take from that context, we can then refer this to the four guidelines for a worldly progress in the Vyaggapada Sutta when we discuss this again. So you can actually, if you are quite familiar with Vyaggapada Sutta, we can then link this to develop further understanding. So the first one, so I'll go with this. First one is about being an alcoholic person, so being an addict person. So addiction is the first thing. The second one is untimely outing. So always or more being out in the streets at wrong times or unsuitable times. The third one is always looking for entertainment, festive gatherings. Always looking for that. The fourth one is gambling. And the fifth one is having wrong type of friends. And the sixth one is laziness. So laziness. So these are the 6 outlets of the water in the reservoir, if we put it. So as we know, sometimes to be an alcoholic or to develop addiction is obviously quite a problem sometimes in the society we live in. The reason that the commentaries give to this is about, or even in the Sutta, is about the decline of wealth is when you are addicted, you actually have, you start perhaps not feeling that what perhaps even going for the buzz, or when you go into drugs nowadays, it's about getting addicted to it. Now, in this case, it is obviously the word is being used as alcohol, but you can take any type of drugs. And you know what the disadvantage of drugs is in the society, how it ruins and how it actually makes the society more problematic as a big virus in the society. Similarly, if that was in a family household, it really brings ruins to the family, not simply just from actually disagreements, quarrels, but also your personal health and the health that declines through getting addicted to. And well, perhaps I'm not a medical expert, but perhaps liver cirrhosis, to many other ways, which I think the discussion might lead us to the type of illnesses that we actually can develop through being an addicted person. But one thing that actually is what's quite interesting as in the sutta is it also develops two types of thing. One is about becoming impatient. So sometimes when you are an addicted person, you develop impatience a lot. And the other thing is about weakening in thinking. So if you look at even though the fifth precept we're talking about, Majja Pamadattana. So Pamadattana means it actually slows your thinking process. It actually even hinders your or it hinders your progress, not just spiritually but also worldly context. Although in some of the obviously social context, it is nowadays used as recreational drug, alcohol. But it is about you making a choice whether you allow the clouding of the mind taking place through such engagement. And but one of the consequences, obviously, is if you are truly and obviously living in a social context, we do meet a lot of families that have actually ruined themselves simply, not drugs as class A or B, but even just simple as alcoholic has really ruined their family lives. It's not just the couples, but perhaps the whole family. And so therefore, for a young person who actually is associated with wealth, should always be mindful that one of the key reasons for downfall would be being an alcoholic or being an addict or drug addict. The second one is about untimely outing. And I'm sure if you are parents, you are always scared until your children come back to your house, whether it is late night parties or overstaying, at a friend's house. You don't sleep well because you might think something might happen in wherever they had overnight stay, or you might think when until the doorbell rings, you are quite scared of things that might happen. So parents are quite concerned sometimes with children's when they are sometimes not able to make decisions, and as well because of what might happen outside in the world. People really, I'm sure, who live in cities, and I don't know, those who are listening to this might not live in cities, but sometimes when you're living in cities, you have a different experience of what happens outside. As you can never predict what happens when you step outside of the door. So as adults or as seniors, sometimes when young children move out of into like maybe universities as well, that's one of the fear that people have, when they have flown out of the nest, what sort of environment would they actually be going into? It's like a bird flying off the nest for some parents when a small child doesn't come back on time, start worrying a lot of things. So those things are some quite sort of common things that we experience as adults. But one of the consequences that is quite in the sutta here is about sometimes you can be vulnerable to anything. You can be vulnerable to anything when you are in a zone that is not familiar. So most importantly, when this untimely outing would be like in maybe just no-go zones, or there are streets some people can actually even label. nowadays, obviously, there are so many, because this is going on live, I don't want to say a few things, but there are so many examples I could bring that can affect the person's return of into one person house. So it is not just about the company that you could actually get into, but perhaps the influence through many other reasons, and even as far as being blackmailed, or so many things can happen. And sometimes when it says untimely, can there ever be a time is a different question. So when do you actually analyze this untimely outing? So those days it was quite in the evening hours, when things were more quiet, when actually I don't know, I think as far as I can remember, some of the stories talk about that sometimes there are dens of robbers and thieves that actually have good like conferences in the night, let's put it that way. In today's world, it's more different, obviously, because the world is so much open into social network now, and there are so many ways that people connect. Now, whether we actually shut off our media network is quite a different thing. But again, do we also need to develop awareness that there are certain things that happen? But perhaps it is maybe developing that mindfulness and resilience, that we know what we are handling. We know what we are actually handling. So untimely outing is about being exposed and being vulnerable. And I think that those are the two words that come to my mind. And even as a young person, no matter whether you are in your 20s or 30s, you still sometimes might not have that experience or that confidence, even I would say, or even that protection. And I don't think so whether it is just for youngsters as Sigala, but even for us as an adults, there is so much things that makes us feel vulnerable and insecure, and it is developing awareness of that. But if a person who is well-to-do and is actually in this context like Sigala, so it's about you yourself being unprotected, your family also getting in danger. So there's one's family being unprotected. And when your family has been unprotected, your wealth is unprotected. And when you are always in the outing in the wrong time, so if you actually get caught for something in the wrong time, wrong place, then you could be a point of suspicion. And there are many teenagers and youngsters, even in the community I live in, have actually been at the wrong time, wrong place, whether it is a bar or whether it is a street, and you could be that person of being a point of suspicion. Sometimes it is about the reputation. It is about when you are seen at the wrong place, wrong time, then the word spreads out so quickly. And you could be a point of gossip. Sometimes, I don't even want to go to Tesco's or Sainsbury's after 1-2 o'clock, because people might just start questioning, what is this monk doing shopping this time of the hour? Maybe in the morning they can think, oh, he's going to buy some cereal bar or something. So my friends, colleagues sometimes help me to get my lunch if it is in the wrong time. So being in the wrong time can be a point of gossip for some time. If I'm seen with someone, even if I talk to a friend, I don't want to go to in this Brent Cross, it's just down the road, but I feel so uncomfortable walking into the shopping center sometimes, because I don't want to be that point of gossip. But so it can happen. So if you, as a person who is young and who is still maybe dependent, because we started this discussion about this interconnected society that we live in, interdependent society, and it will affect your decisions will affect your family, the things that you do will affect your family. So whether or not we actually agree with reputation, sometimes it can be a point of problem for the society the person is living in. So and when you are there, and most importantly, it's about attracting problems, or being the being at a point where you face so many troubles and problems. So being or always going at untimely outing can be a real reason for ruin. not just in terms of your personal, but and then later on it affects into your mental health and other ways, and so not just addiction, but also the influences that you might encounter by going out in a wrong time. Obviously, if you're addicted to festive gatherings, it's always about looking for where is more entertainment. Where is this entertainment? And I'm sure as soon as you can see some people, when the pandemic was just opened, then people are always into trying to go for entertainment. And obviously, if there are the wrong type of people, with certain things, with the world, with the matches that we saw, or places that people can. But if you're always looking for those things, if you're always looking for entertainment, the problem with that would be that you are always looking for where is their dancing, where is their singing, and according to the Buddha's time, where is music, where is entertainment, and you are addicted to that type of entertainment. And when you're addicted to it, we are talking about perhaps even your mental health. And nowadays, with the social media or the internet and wireless being so much, internet being so much available to anything, it is about this awareness and how it affects your mindset, how it's affecting. Those days, there was nothing about this type of media or internet. Those days it was about this point of entertainment. So you had to travel far sometimes. You had to go to further places to now, whereas in Nepal, sometimes jatra takes place very rarely, maybe once, I don't know how many months, I don't know. But if you look at the society, then entertainment would be quite perhaps remotely or quite isolated ones. So if a person was always addicted to it, it would be always going to it. But now for us, all you have to do is Google it. And then all you have to do is find the web address. And now it is about that motive that has developed to some sort of, sometimes I heard, I think it was Ram Babu who said that one time, sometimes we are so much addicted that you develop that fear that you don't know. Do you remember that word? That there's one sort of anxiety we develop that you don't want to be the last person to know things. So we always into Google, always into your WhatsApp, always into and those things. Like, so in terms of dancing, singing, in terms of it's not about shopping, but so other things, other entertainment. It's not just about increasing the number of hits and this and that, but it's more or less about that addiction that actually affects your mind. And I don't want to say certain words that people and lots of people can get addicted to, because this is live and recorded. But it is something that now it is widely spoken about, even in schools with children, that we need to learn how to control what we approach, what we see in that square screen. That square screen has really, really been a disturbing point for lots of growing generation. And even as a teenager or as an adult, there can be points of addiction that we can go into. And therefore, this seeking for frequent theatrical or any sort of entertainment, this is about frequency we're talking about. But when this frequency is not, during the pandemic, the frequency has been very different. But again, when this internet is there that allows so much information to come to your screen, there should be that determination, commitment that we need to develop this awareness to stop certain things, because it can really, really ruin the person's mental health. And when that is there, that addiction is very hard to free oneself from. The fourth one is gambling. Gambling, obviously, how addicted you could be. Some people say, "Oh, I'm just having fun with my lotto," or that's it's entirely up to you how you see it. It's just one-off. But when there is gambling, I think I read somewhere that 1 in 10 people who have won lotteries in this country have actually cursed their victories, because it has ruined their life so much. Now, and when I was doing some research in terms of gambling, some people gamble, I don't know, 500 is a small figure, I believe, for some people, £5,000 every day. 500, because obviously the addiction is so much so that you want to get what you already put, and then you just double, triple. Yeah, life is not Las Vegas all the time. Life is more than that. It only depends who you are. But where there is an addiction, and as you know, like we have, I don't know whether to put it right, but I think Mahabharata is partly a result of gambling, was it? Yeah, it's about gambling, and because once you lose something, then you want to gain more. And then there is a chance that you get addicted to it, and unless you realize that this is heading towards addiction, I don't know whether it can be sort of helped, unless you realize it, and you just go into, like alcohol, it can go into addiction. And so so yeah, 1 in 10 people, 9 out of 10 people, sorry, it was wrong, 9 out of 10 people did not agree that whatever they won in the lottos was a good thing for them. So they just thought it ruined their lives. It's 9 out of 10 people. I remember someone said, actually, I think he went back to council to get his bin job back after winning a couple of millions. He went to the council and said, can I have my bin job back? So I don't know, but that is something that, so gambling is one thing. So I think I don't need to talk about gambling that much, but that is one reason for someone to lose. But the text here says that the winner begets hate, so that is normal. So if you lose, you always be a point of hate. Loser grieves for loss of wealth. His word is not relied upon in a court of law. It's quite interesting put there, because you cannot trust this person's words. He's always despised by friends and associates. Always despised by friends and associates. It's quite interesting as well, because you can never trust, sometimes, because say, for example, you were in an urgent matter of money, that you want to borrow some money. Would you lend some money to a gambler? We wouldn't, because we know what the point of that is for. So you lose the trust as well from your people, and you also lose trust and confidence from your family members. Because no one would, everyone, you always look down upon as a gambler, a very a negative tag that you start having for yourself. Well, that's also after you've lost everything, gambling everything that you own. Then that's. So the fifth one is about having wrong type of friends, companions, wrong type. And I would like to leave this to develop more into next session, this particular one with friendship. So I won't go much in detail, but it is about getting the companionship or the association that you develop with the wrong type of people is simply you are getting onto their negative ways of habit, or unconsciously developing. I'm using this word quite correctly, I believe. Unconsciously, we get into agreeing with certain negative things and then making that as part of our true nature, or as might say that it's nothing wrong, you are doing it. So there is a bit of a negative downfall straight away with wrong types of friends. So we'll discuss that a little bit much in detail next week. Next month. So the last one in this in this addiction is about, or in this downfall, is something that we might experience, and the way it is put in there. It's about laziness, because laziness is also another topic at one time. But in this context, it is about always procrastinating, postponing things, and not seeing an urgency in certain things that needs to be done. So if we use the word prioritizing, might not also be the best thing, but obviously doing right things at the right time is the opposite of this. So a person who is lazy, and a person who's lazy is always thinking in this way: oh, it's too cold now, I don't want to do it. Or it's too hot now, let's wait until the heat is down. It's too late in the evening now, let's do it tomorrow. It's too late now, okay, I'll do it another day. Then there's it's too early in the morning. Stuart, let me just have 5 more minutes of sleep. So snoozing is partly one of the things that we might be able to look at this in this context. Sometimes, when you're too hungry, also you postpone things. Oh, I'm so hungry now, let's wait for a while. And sometimes, oh, I'm too full. I'm too full. I can't move. So give me 5 minutes to rest or 1 hour to rest. So it's always that sort of attitude that you develop. Postponing, procrastinating is simply one of the reasons for someone to actually ruin himself or herself. And it does no good to the family sometimes, because, or to the network, because if you don't realize the urgency and prioritization of personal certain matters on your agenda, it might be very difficult for someone to progress. So having said that, I will discuss this 5th one about friendship as a different topic, because we're talking about 4 types of good friends and 4 types of evil friends. So with that, perhaps, short background information, I believe I've spoken good enough so that we can generate some discussion. So the 6 types of or the roots, or roots means the roots, R-O-U-T-E, not root as the tree roots. So these are the 6 roots of or routes. I don't know how you pronounce that word. I think you call it router, as in terms of the modem router. But so these are so being alcoholic, always going out at the wrong time, or being in the wrong place, going out and looking for entertainment or festive gatherings, again, gambling, wrong friends, and laziness are the 6 reasons that leads to an economic downfall. Remember, it's the word economic downfall. So we'll open for discussion.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you.
Yes, that was Bhante just went through 6 drain of wealth, that how one can lose not only wealth, even the status, that people do not trust you or believe you, so that one can ruin. So this is quite important, although this was in Sigalovada Sutta, Buddha taught this over 2,600 years ago. I'm sure it is equally relevant in today's day-to-day life as well. Although we do not think
more than relevant at the moment, especially with mental health, with uncertainty, insecurity.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's more than so people, as Bhante has pointed out already, saying that people might because, again, as pointed out, that because people associate wrong friends, and you are brought up in that environment or with those ideas, people normalize it and think, what's wrong with that? I'm brought up with such a thing. So once a while, let me, buy a lottery, and just for fun. But the thing is, addiction, that's the most harmful thing. For fun, yes, because, the lay life, we like things to do. Of course, till we seriously follow the teachings and follow the path, as long as we are in household life, once a while we say, okay, let's have a party. So if we say, no, you can't have a party, you are Buddhist or you are following the teaching, then people might get negative thought. So the gradually, but the main point is that addiction, how easily one can get addicted to all these 6 drain. The good example Bhante gave was, like a tap. If we open all 6 tap, so that's why Buddha also in his teaching says Araka Sampada. Araka Sampada is we earn money, with the hard earning, then we also should know how to protect it, protect the wealth we earn. So that's, araka sampada. So that will go away if we get addicted to all these six, namely, alcohol, wrong timing, going out at wrong time, like a midnight, 1, 2 o'clock. It might looks like a partying, but it's easily we can get trapped into crime that we never did. And gambling, partying, wrong friends, and laziness. Okay, we can carry on, and if Bhante will be happy to explain. If there is a questions or any your experience or thoughts to share, please, at the bottom there's a reaction button. Please raise your hand, and we can move on discussing today's topic. Okay, I'm not seeing any hand. Okay, Rasna, Dr. Rasna, you are not well, I know that, but you'd like to share a question. Please, just a minute. I will allow. Yeah, you can unmute yourself and put your questions, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bhante. I'm sorry, I'm not putting my video on because I'm just lying down.
Yes.
Feeling unwell, but it was very nice after a long time that I am hearing, because I've been missing quite, both Dinesh and me, we both are missing quite a couple of sessions. But Sigalovada Sutta is something that I always say that, like to Bhante last time also, it was such a nice sutra that Lord Buddha has told to Sigala. And this is so much important to everyday life for all of us. And when Bhante was talking about that, I was just remembering when I was a child, I heard about one story of a Newar merchant who happened to be my auntie's in next door neighbor. And when he was in Lhasa, whenever he comes out, he's been so powerful that whenever he comes out, they have to do top, like dang, So that person that's a high position in Lhasa. But when the China took over Lhasa, obviously they have to flee back to Nepal. And then he wanted to maintain the same standard when he was in Lhasa. But then obviously he doesn't have the income. But then he was using all his income in gambling, everything what Bhante told that he was doing. He was opening all 6 taps, obviously. So at the end, he has to sell everything, even his house. And then he just passed away like a beggar. So that story just came back. It's a true story. It just came back to me flooding when I was listening to Bhante. So these are, even Lord Buddha's time also is the same. Even that time also same. Even now is also the same. It applies day to day in our life. In Lord Buddha's time and now, there's no difference. That's what I was thinking. And now I feel, as Bhante has been trying to say, that it is even worse now because of the internet. You don't need to go out all time. You just stay at home in one room and you can ruin your life. And this is what we've been seeing, a lot of youngsters. And, for this is very dreadful, experience for the parents whose children get addicted to this internet thing, gambling or say one, you can get anything. So thank you very much.
There are certain words we can't use online at the moment. So
sorry?
There are certain words we can't use online at the moment, but there's so many people
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I also didn't say anything, but then that more than the gambling and going out, that 6 things that we have been told, nowadays, because the world is changing, because of the internet, no need to go out. Even staying at home, you can break all those things. So it is even more dangerous now, isn't it? That's what I just wanted to say. Thank you very much, Bhante. It's really nice.
Thank you, Dr. Rasna. Yes, Bhante.
Jaya had hand raised. Sorry.
Yes. Jaya, please.
Yeah, I think it's my daughter Sumi got the question, I think. Thank you for giving these teachings, but I have one question. So you know how you said laziness is when you're like postponing things and procrastinating. So if someone is doing something bad and you procrastinate it in saying that we should do it later, that's not laziness, right?
Yeah, that is your skillful thinking, that you don't want to get involved in that wrong thing. But maybe it's good to also figure out why doing that wrong thing is wrong, and therefore don't even do it after that. So procrastinating here means you know that you need to do a good thing, but then you don't want to commit to it because you are lazy. You're always postponing, you're always putting it at the bottom of the pile. So the procrastination means like there are 4 or 5 things that you have to do, but you find other things to pretend that you are doing certain things, which is true. So for example, you might need to do your homework, but you will say, oh, I need to take a shower. I need to eat first. I need to do my nails first, or I need to actually do this first. Now, all of the other thing is also what you need to do, but you are postponing the most important thing, that homework that you needed to do. So that is called procrastinating. Okay, so doesn't mean that the 1, 2, 3, 4 5 things you do is not important. They also are important, but it is about that you are postponing everything and putting the most important thing in the last. So if you take a big jar, if a big bottle, and you have 100 pebbles, and you have 4 big stones, which one would you want to put in first?
The 4 big stones.
Why?
Because they're the biggest.
Then when you put the most important things in first, then all the pebbles can fit into your day-to-day juggling life. So there might be like 5 things you need to do for the day. That has to be priority. But if you start procrastinating, you are giving priority for the unimportant things like brushing your teeth, or maybe taking a water, and then you actually, but if you do the most 4 important things, you can actually then start juggling and other things as maybe multitasking or whatnot. Okay, so you can always discard the unnecessary things, or the bad things. Never ever even think of doing it. Never ever think of doing it. That is what I'm going to actually talk about in my next session, about good friends and bad friends. So I don't want to ruin your anticipation for the next topic, but basically, if there is something wrong that you know is wrong, never do it. The flame, fire, it burns, so you don't need to touch to feel it burn you. You know it is burns, so don't do it at all, like that. So if you know something is wrong, don't do it. And whenever you have a doubt, means if you don't do it and you question it, means you still are in doubt, so that means it's still wrong. If it was good, you'd all have done it. If it was some good decision to make, you'd have done it. So wherever you actually pause means there's something wrong, and that is doubtful. That means you need to think about it twice before you jump into the fire.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. So isn't it saying that like we prioritize what is important to do first? Of course, not to do wrong at all, but then whatever is things to do, prioritize and do most important first, and then rest. Yes, so that's again discipline, and that's okay. Dr. Biswaratnatradar, Biswaji, please unmute yourself and put your question.
Bandana Vante. I'm very new to this society, so maybe you have explained it somewhere, or you'll probably be explaining it later. So if it's not appropriate, that's fine. But what I have the question is that, I'm really think that Buddha teaching is really, really good, and good in the sense that it's just not the advice as well. It actually tells us exactly how to get out of it. So my question is, for example, these habits are really bad. Obviously, there's no doubt about that. Especially, for example, the compulsive gambling, as you have explained, that can ruin very quickly. Yeah. And in today's science, one of the things they think that in some people it is pathological actually. So they just can't control it. Pathological doesn't mean that it doesn't have the solution. So with Buddhas, I think one of the best things is to teach what is the solution as well. So what is the actually solution suggested to get out of, for example, compulsive gambling for the lay people as well? Is it the meditation, mindfulness, and other things? What is it Buddha suggested? That is what I was wondering about.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple, but thank you for that raising that question. It is very important. Now, obviously, every individual, I think for these things, it has to be subjective. It has to be on the person's mentality and the person's ability to absorb what is being told. Now, if you take any example, even in the Buddha's time, the Dhammapada, for example, which I'm reflecting every day, every advice is based on the situation, the scenario, and it is quite subjective in a way, but that can be universal. That is quite a good thing. So the first thing, obviously, is it is the person wanting or have accepted that there is a problem, and I think that is quite important. Whether it is, I think that is the similar advice even these support groups use, because if you don't accept that you have a problem, you will never take in anything that is being told to support. So it is about perhaps that acceptance and then ready to move on and transform, and I would say reform, to change completely. The story of Angulimala, he understood what he was doing wrong. When you understand, you can give it a stop straight away. It's not a gradual stopping. So if it is clinical, and I don't know whether it is, there are certain obviously physical arguments in certain things as well. And I'm not a medical expert to address and give that physical type of problems, because there can be, as you said, certain physical issues. But I think that addiction is part of the desire within you that is being fed, and that is being actually fed throughout not an hour, perhaps, every time. You're always thinking about it. Some people always think about certain things. So there are lots of guidelines for this in terms of those things, that where if you have, so it is what we call that distorted mindset. If I use that, in Pali we use the word vipallasa, and in one of the areas there are, so sometimes you have to learn how to like when you have when I had a small I don't know what you call that, kind of yeah. And so when I do, and I know it's painful, I want to take it out. If I didn't bother, I wouldn't take it out. So when I know I want to take it out, so I use a bigger tool to take it out, like a carpenter. So there's a nail to take out, and use a bigger tool to take it out. So when there's a wrong thing happening, sometimes we need to use a bigger, wholesome, good thing to divert it out. So you have to replace that small thing with a bigger good thing, so that you actually don't pay attention to it anymore. And like that, there are many ways, techniques, and sometimes it's completely diverting into, because when there is this addiction, it is always, how do I feed this addiction? How do I actually work on this addiction? How do I actually always be entertained or be quenching this thirst? And when that is there, how do you divert your attention? And this is where mindfulness comes into. If you are aware that this second nature is actually a thought that is now unconsciously coming and becoming second nature, mindfulness is the only way to stop, like antivirus program. When there is something coming, you need to, that my computer antivirus pops up and say there is this, you block it out, isn't it? Antivirus program block out the virus that are entering through and all of these terminals in your PC. And that then mindfulness becomes that antivirus, where it stops it entering the mind, or it stops. And through meditation, we develop this technique called not to get involved or engage with even the thought that arises within yourself as a memory, or as some sort of new conditioned thoughts. So you are, or that addiction is a result of certain conditions being met and or certain conditions being in place. And whether you actually, if you are committed to it, you are able to, I believe, because actually you are engaging with it out of a choice. But if it is in that physical argument where that there is no choice, then I'm sure there must be some other ways to help. And that is where obviously this psychiatrists, I believe, use certain techniques to, from the talking and therapies to, or counseling therapies to slowly, again, but again, if you don't go there as a compulsive gambler, then how do you, if you don't accept that you have a problem, there's no way you could perhaps, free yourself from it. But the moment you realize and accept that there is a problem, I think that is where we need to plant the seeds of, strategies to help people to actually come out of it. It is about taking ownership, responsibility in the end. If you are not ready to take responsibility, and Angulimala took that responsibility, and then he was able to free himself from every, even slightest of wrong thought, he actually completely stopped it to happen. So then he is considered to be like an arhat or a saint. So, and there are many ways. So maybe one day we'll work on this distorted techniques. There are 5 techniques which we can discuss. It is in the Vipassana Sutta, and we can analyze one by one. Yeah, Vipassana Sutta. Yeah. So that is one of the few techniques, I believe. But I think Dr. Sakya has something to say on this.
I'll just tell you a little bit. The only thing actually I have been interested in the Buddhism started with the, I've been doing the Vipassana meditation with Goenka, yeah. And I believe actually my background is pharmacology, so how the drug works and all these things. So my belief is that actually this is a much better method than treating drugs with the drugs and all these things as well. And the psychology part, actually, I feel our Buddhist psychology is much way better than the current neuropharmacology and all the things. But that is why I did a little bit of research. I'm not that expert.
Why don't you research on neuroplasticity and how compassion-based mindfulness has helped a lot on neuroplasticity?
Yeah, this is what I was saying. Actually, neuroplasticity and all these things, the way to do it, I think the mindfulness meditation, like Vipassana or all these things, is much better
technique because
technique. And in 10, 20 years, I'm sure this will become much more, as it becomes more popular, it will be much more used.
Recently, I've been like from Vaisakh Purnima onwards, I've been focusing on mental health a lot. And when I do research on, even if you just type certain things of mental health in Google, and because it's a UK based, so many centers come up with mental health and so many news report, and 1 in 5 adults, or I don't know, 1 in 4, or like 10 at least 10 cases under 20 are admitted to hospital. So many things come up. And it is something that people are talking nowadays everywhere, and I think it's quite important. Now, but what's interesting, I was going to is in every website there is at least a link guiding or directing you to mindfulness meditation.
Yes, but I also am aware of that. Now, most of the psychiatrists, they are using meditation as a way forward for those people. Even in our hospital, so we are slowly introducing meditation. Yeah.
And that is because that is the skill to not be, because there's vaccination for physical illnesses. There's no vaccination for mental illness or something that enters your mind. So when I look at the chocolate bar, I always look at the things that I want to say. What is going through my mouth? So I can keep my control of what's going through my mouth. But the only way you can stop something entering your mind is being mindful.
Yes, that's the. I also just
you have 5, 6 ways things can enter your mind, and the only way you can stop or be in control or be in charge and not be germinated or contaminated is by being mindful of what is entering through your mind. You have no physical thing to body. You can stop. You can stop and stop eating, whatever. But mind is always thinking, wanting more information. But what do we do and how we involve? And when you get involved is where that choice is made, and that's where the responsibility is all about.
Yes, thank you, Bhante. Yeah, just to, this mindfulness is quite interesting, that how it has become one of the main source in, in the world, in Western world, that even, just as, because when I had a blood test, the doctor just said, you are in a borderline for diabetes, and I was suggested, why don't you do diabetes course? Although I don't have, I thought that might be, just interesting what they teach. And one of the session was on mindfulness. The whole session, which was over an hour, the lady was going through how to practice meditation and how to be mindful. And I said, wow, that's, this is just so that you can control what you are eating, you can control your diabetes. And so the mindfulness is, is everywhere now, because obviously it's beneficial. So now, Dr. Yes, Bhante?
No, it's okay. No, someone was having some this diet problems and eating habit problems, and I think she ended up doing a PhD in diet. and her conclusion was very simple.
Yeah,
mindful eating.
So whole PhD was.
Yeah, and then I thought the Buddhists they gave us pratyaveksha. When monks eat, they don't eat to fill up the gaps here. They don't eat to reduce the gaps. So nevadavai, namadai, namandanai. So not to ornament, not to. So the key purpose to it is don't let old illnesses arise, not to let new illnesses arise. Simple as that.
Yeah, the Pachavekana, which is...
Yeah, Pachavekana, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so that was 2,600 years ago.
Yeah, anyway. But I think it's very much among Bhante, Buddhist, monks and nuns. This Pachavekana is one of the very vital thing, when you eat or when you wear robe, when you sleep, everything. I think this should be taught for the laities also, although it is taught, like a part of meditation. I think, I think we should gradually start teaching laities as well, to do Pachavekana before having a meal. that would be quite interesting. Dr. Dharmasakya, Dr. Ju, please.
Okay, thank you.
Put your question.
Bhante, this is a question regarding addiction, Bhante. I just wanted to ask something. As a doctor, when I was working, Bhante, no, not from the doctor point of view, Bhante, from the point of view. I'm going to tell you what I know from the medical point of view, then ask you if you have any advice from Buddhist point of view. As a doctor, I had to deal with both alcoholic addiction as well as drug addiction. I remember working in a private hospital. Alcoholics used to come, and to win them over, it takes months and they suffer. But within a few months of discharging from hospital, they come back again. And the same thing with the drug.
I remember in Scotland or somewhere, some people who were really addicted used to go into hospital and drink the gel, antibacterial. Nowadays, it was in the news report, and the doctors and nurses had to hide those because they were so addicted. And they couldn't afford to get alcohol, and they used to go to barge into hospitals and just drink that the sanitizers.
It's with
alcohol, in the news one time. No, not Scott. I don't know where it was, but somewhere.
It has alcohol. Yeah.
No, not that one, because we are we used to give the drugs that reacts if they drink alcohol. Doesn't matter whether it's in form of alcohol or in the spirit. And we used to takes a long time to make them better. And when they go back, they become alcoholic again. And I remember the wives coming and crying, Doctor, I don't know, he has spent all our money, even our house, in alcohol. Same thing is true with the drug addiction one day. So it is very difficult to treat those addiction. Now, I read or saw in the news report some time ago, there's a Buddhist monastery in Thailand where they admit these drug addicts. They don't give any medications. They go through a process, and some of them they failed, but many of them it helps them. I was just wondering if one day knew.
I also have heard about that there is this support system in a temple, in Thailand. I don't know much in detail, but I mean, that's why we have the fifth precept just as a reminder all the time. But I mean, I honestly, to be honest, I don't know how to advise, because I think the only way to do is to realize the disadvantage of getting addicted. But when you are in that stage, I think that's why I said earlier, unless you realize that you are in that state and you wish to actually get out of it, I think then there is much support. Like, I mean, with all the chaplaincy programs, even in prisons and all this, they focus on this addiction a lot, and it is basically getting addicted to ideas, thoughts, and the same thing when it comes into that addiction to the materials, So it is perhaps how to help ourselves control, maybe starting off with controlling and slowly going to the realization stage that it is something, whether that addiction is part of your mental health or whether that addiction is part of your compulsiveness. But if that is something that your body, is it the body wanting or is it the mind wanting?
Both.
And I think both. And therefore, I think it is the meditation and mindfulness and all the strategies, whenever they're getting the support, will help them to realize, to come to that stage, isn't it? That when this arises, you are able to let it go. And I think it is the same technique being applied. That's why out of the three, which I always say, the right intention, or is nekkhamma sankappa, to develop that attitude or desire, or even that want to renounce from the negative, thinking and actions. Unless you have that seedling, that's why even the word chanda in the Iddipada, or the chanda in the, there are four things, there should be some sort of will that you start to establish. And then only when you are constantly with it, you start developing three types of effort. First is the aramba nikkama dhatu, which means the desire to achieve something. Or then it is, during the continuation, some people give up. So therefore, it is about the desire, what we call sustained effort. Continuously, it is hard, it is difficult. Like meditation, you can't sit down for a while, but you just keep on, trying to keep moving, keeping on that sort of effort that you already started, basically wanting to see the end of it, which is then parikkama nikkama dhatu, which is about finding the end, or coming to the end of that effort, or see a product as end result. So, I mean, these are the few references that just come to my mind about how perhaps once you realize that you want to get out of the problem, then there is a solution. But if you don't want to get out of it, I think no matter what is being done will never happen. It's like that example of some people believe in karma as well. They just, oh, this is my karma. They never want to get out of it. So when you fall into a hole and then you just look in the sky, and we don't do that. So if we want to get out of it, you somehow get out of the hole that you fell into. And it is that side of analogy I can give, that where there is a want, there is a way. Or where there is, what's the word? Where there is
Where there's a
will, there's a way.
There's a will. Yeah.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And if once you realize that you need to get out of it, then that's where everything is possible. It makes things so much easier. And that's why the Vipallas, or the Vitakka Santana Sutta, that's called Vitakka Santana Sutta. That's 5 techniques that the Buddha gave in spiritual context about unwholesome thinking and thoughts. Okay, so maybe I don't know. I think that's all I can think of for the time being.
What I found is, from experience, that 2 things that fails in the treatment of these addictions. One is motivation. Most of these people come to hospital or detox centers because they are forced to come. They don't come with motivation. Whereas in those Buddhist centers in Thailand, they go there because of the motivation. And second is the hunger. As Buddha said, desire. Hunger is the greatest desire. And for the addicts, for alcohol or drug, their desire to have alcohol, even the cigarette one day, is the greatest desire. They can't stop it. So that's why I was thinking if Bhante knows anything about those Buddhists.
No, because I haven't dealt with such an extreme cases at all, but problems at all, and I think that does require a different type of training as well, so that not to actually disadvantage the person who is actually seeking your help. And I think, in honesty, that requires some other type of training in part of, whether it's part of the chaplaincy or whether it's part of the.
It's a medical and.
What I will do, Amrit, is I will Google it and see if I can find in the Google.
Yeah, I think, but as I said, you know, if there's no motivation, the will that we're talking about is that motivation. If you want it, it's the solution is there, and no matter if you don't want it, no matter how much you pour the detoxation or the idea or whatever, you know, the strategies, it'll never help because there's no will, and that motivation is what we've been talking about throughout.
Yeah.
Sumi, is that another question? Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah. Sumi, please unmute and put your question. Or thank you.
I want to help like students like me to do meditation, and I want to work with you and any other doctors to be more mindful and stress-free if you're free. Since I gave a meditation about meditation to my school and all the students enjoyed it a lot, so how would I connect with you?
Connect with me?
And,
oh.
yes.
I want to teach meditation to your
number
friends.
is there, you can call and we can discuss, but you want to teach your friends meditation?
Yes. I did it once, and they enjoyed.
They liked it, they loved it, yes.
Yes.
And that's good.
Because I have an appointment at 5:30, I'll be very short and quick. I have another appointment at 5:30. Okay. So even this afternoon, because first of all, obviously, is it same age as yourself? Or is it younger?
Same age.
Same age. Okay, so do you want to tell me what you told them and you know what you actually, how you told them how to meditate first? You remember? Is it the one that I taught you before when you came to the temple? What did you tell your friends?
Quite similar.
Okay, what did you tell your friends? If you remember, just tell me what you remember. No pressure. I mean, you can stop recording if you want.
It's about breathing. It's about breathing in. It's the breathing meditation, and it's about like breathing in and breathing out. And first having your posture, and then doing about your senses. And what can you see, what you can hear, like that, and let it all go, and yeah, something like that. That's what I can remember.
Yeah, and that's very good. Yeah, that's very good. So I mean, as you know, meditation is, there's so many techniques. It's like
I'm planning to do the breathing meditation.
The breathing one, and even in breathing, there's so many techniques. Okay, so it depends on the type of meditation that you want your friends to know. If it is about concentration, or is it about being mindful? Because concentration is different to mindful or being mindful. So there are two different things. And you can, if it is about being mindful, it is about telling or informing your friends how the mind might work. Do you remember the spider example I gave you? Spider in the center of the cup. I know you don't like spiders, so if you don't like thinking about spiders, then be careful how you put this into your friends. If they don't like spiders, they'll know. But our mind is always, because first of all, we have to know what is mind. We don't know what the mind is. It's not the brain. So mind is something, or like awareness or consciousness. So if your mind is aware of seeing something like this bottle, you can't see. So then we are saying that mind is what we call in the seeing. So we call it eye consciousness, but you don't have to go that much in detail. maybe you can start saying that our mind can always be understood in 6 channels. In the TV, you only have 6 channels. Imagine that. Okay. What are the 6 channels? Ear, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. And what's the 6th one?
Mind.
Mind. Very good. So that is the 6th channel. So there's only 6 channels in the TV, and you can only see 1 channel at one time. Right? You can't see 2 channels at one time. Yeah. So then if you are in channel in the eye channel, that means you have to be mindful that you are seeing something. If you are hearing something, you are in the hearing channel, maybe number 2. Number 3, smelling channel. Number 4, tasting channel. Number 5, feeling channel. Number 6, thinking channel. So when you close your eyes, your mind is always trying to be in the one of those channels. So when you get bored with the first channel, you go to channel number 2. Now you click channel, isn't it? So when you see something, you get bored with it, you will start thinking of something else. Then it went to channel 6. When you hear a sound, channel 4. When you smell something, channel 2. That is how we are switching the channel all the time. Oh, poor mind is so tired, isn't it? So we need to give that mind a bit of a break. Okay, so that's where concentration kicks in. So when you tell your friends to close your eyes, you can do the same thing you said, just observe the body, how it is and everything. The moment you start watching your breathing, now when you come to the finishing your body observation, now you have to stop them by saying, now just look at your body, it is like a statue, not moving. Now don't move. And then slowly bring the attention to the breathing and give that mind a job to do. What's the job? Observe the breathing. You know, like in the security guard in the door, they're looking at who's coming, looking at who's going out. So in breath is coming, out breath is going. In breath is coming. If the security guard fails to see something, what will happen? Maybe a thief might come. Maybe someone that's not allowed might come. So we have to be very mindful what is going in, what is so like that. Just watch the breath. Don't get your attention somewhere else. Breathing in, breathing out, and you can do the counting for that, as I said. But then your mind is not always in the breathing, isn't it?
Yes.
It gets bored, so starts flicking the channel. Or thinking, planning, or I did this yesterday, what am I going to do tomorrow? So many things happening. And if you realize that, all you have to do is realize which channel your mind went to. So you recognize the channel. Don't try to think about what it is, but just to recognize which channel your mind was in. Oh, seeing. So recognize. Can you write it down? First one is recognize.
Yeah.
Then you can go, then you don't stay there. Okay? You don't stay there. You don't get involved with thinking. You don't analyze. You don't say, oh, well, is that my mobile? Or is that a doorbell? So sound is sound. That's it. You don't actually analyze it. And then you free yourself from there. Release. Don't stay there. Don't get involved with it. Release yourself from there. Then what do? If you free yourself from there, you have no place to go. Where do you come back to?
The breathing.
That's your home base. So you return to breathing. So recognize, release, return.
Yes.
And then just keep on doing that for a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe that bit is good enough to help your friends try to, and you can do for 5 minutes, you can do for 6 minutes, or just even 3 minutes. Okay. So observing the breathing, but be mindful which channel it is going to, and apply the 3 R's.
Okay, I will.
All you have to remember is the channels and then 3 R's.
Okay, the channels and the 3 R's.
Easy, isn't it? Remember. But remember, your TV or your body has only 6 channels, no more than that. I know your TV at home has 100 channels, but this time we are just talking about 6 channels. And all you can do is whatever you do, you'll be just in one of the channels in front of the telly.
Okay.
So you're
Thank
like looking at your brother, seeing which channel is flicking into. So you watch the mind and observe what the mind is doing, flicking channels.
Okay. I will.
It will be quite boring, you know,
Thank
just to
you.
have a 6 channel, isn't it?
Yeah.
After having
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. So just a simple way to put it to your friends, okay?
You'll be very
Okay.
good meditation teacher. And that's
Thank you.
good luck, good luck. And we would like to hear from you in near future. Then you know what you thought.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to help
Okay,
so Bhante has to go. So
Yeah.
as Bhante, you know, so I think we will end today's session here. So
that is okay. Yeah, I have to.
yes, Bhante. So on behalf of, let me just close down. On behalf of Lumbini Nepalese Buddhist Society, once again, we are very grateful and we would like to express our gratitude and respect to Bhante for being with us and for, you know, giving such a wonderful Buddha's teaching, elaborating, you know, the way we understand and help us to grasp it so that we can utilize it, use it in our day-to-day life, and so that, you know, for the betterment of oneself and for others. So by this learning, obviously, in next month also, the Sigalovada Sutta will be continued. The Bhante will go on various other topics. So we wish, you know, Bhante's health and happiness so that he can do more and more Dhammaduta work for the betterment of many. Like a Charata Bhikkhave Charikang, Bhante is always busy, you know, teaching the noble teaching. So we are very grateful, Bhante, and we wish his health, happiness, so that he can do more Dhammaduta work, and also wish all of us who joined us today for, you know, by the power of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, may we all, you know, have health, happiness, and peace, physical health as well as mental health, so that you know, we can, you know, live our life happily as well as, you know, follow the path, the teachings, and, you know, have a mental happiness and realize the truth, Nibbana. So we wish everybody well, and at the same time, as a Buddhist tradition, that we remember our departed relatives also, that by the power of all the good deeds we did, mentally, physically, you know, may they also share this merit, may all be well, happy, and peaceful wherever they are. By the power of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, may we all one day be able to realize the truth and attain the bliss of Nirvana. Thank you for joining, and see you in future. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
And also happy birthday to Bhante in advance.
Oh, it's Bhante's
yesterday.
birthday.
Happy belated.
Belated. Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yesterday. Yeah, finished.
Yeah.
Very old now. So.
Thank you for reminding. We also like to express our, you know, wish Bhante's belated happy birthday on behalf of the society and all of us. Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.